Good morning guys. Today's video I'm going to be going through what I'm sowing in March, and there's one particular family of vegetables that I'm really excited to be sowing, and I think you guys should be as well. So before we get into the video, just to be clear, anything you could sow in February and even January, you can definitely sow now. So lettuces, radishes, beetroot, spinach, spring onions, all of that stuff, you can definitely sow now. And I'll pop a link up to my video where you can watch back and see what else you can be sowing now in March. Right, first off on the list of plants to sow in March is the last of your sort of warmth-loving plants. The reason your warmth-loving plants sort of need to be sown now is because they take a little while to sort of produce a harvest and need lots of warmth, lots of sunlight. So the earlier you start them off, the better chance you have of the fruit ripening in time for your harvest before the weather sort of turns cold again. So I've gone for a variety of tomato here called Marmonade, and a variety of sort of sweet pepper called Corno di Toro Rosso. That's my best Italian there. Now, before we go on to the sort of rest of the vegetables and what to sow in March, I'll just go a quick sort of rundown of my sort of technique. One of the first things I do, I'm gonna have to put these in my pocket, I think it's a bit windy, is I sift the compost. Now, the reason I do that is because I'm using the multi-purpose compost, and just generally there will be some big lumps in there. So I'll sort of show you the sort of process for that. I pretty much just use a sort of, I think it's a 4mm sift, and I sort of just sift the compost out. And the larger bits I either throw on the compost heap or I just sort of throw onto the beds, onto the sort of raised beds. But all I'm going to do is just sort of take the this compost, firm it down. That's quite important. You really want to have it pretty firm. Maybe for a bit more, and firm it down again. And then when you've got a pot like that, I just use a pen in this case. And with these tomatoes and chilies, I'm just going to make 2 holes per pot, opposite sort of ends, and I'm going to drop 2 seeds in each. The reason I'm going to do that is because there's a chance of these things not germinating and things. So I'm just going to speed this video up. Now I'll try and get you guys some close-ups of the seeds. Now there is lots of probably better pepper chili growers than me that talk about soaking the seeds and things like that, but I've done this and I've had some success, so I'm not going to stress too much about the exact sort of method that I'm going to apply here. So I'm just going to drop 2 seeds into each hole like that, and then I'll just cover them over and firm them down. In terms of planting depth, you can't really go too wrong if you go too shallow, but you can go too wrong if you go too deep. So just bear that in mind. About 1/2 centimeter is pretty good for most seedlings. So the edible plant I think everyone should be sowing in March, and I think quite often gets forgotten about, is herbs. Herbs from seed. Now is a brilliant time to start. So I've picked 4. Coriander. So coriander, lovely fragrant herb. Plus, and again, you're going to see a bit of a theme when I talk about herbs, gives off this beautiful flower, which is brilliant for pollinating insects and attracts a lot of different varieties of insect. And some of those are the kind of beneficial ones, parasitic wasps and things like that, which will eat slugs, eat caterpillars and things. Next one is dill. Again, lovely herb for, used in cooking and things, but also beautiful flowers. Parsley is quite a cold tolerating crop, will likely go to flower quite quickly, but again, great in the kitchen. And then finally, one that I've never grown before is thyme. I've heard this is quite tricky to keep alive, but we're gonna give it a go. So a similar approach as before, just sort of fill the pots up with the compost and made a small hole with the pen. And we're going to start off with the coriander here, variety called Calypso. Now the seeds are, as you know, if you cook with them, coriander seeds look like this. And I'm going to put probably 1 in each pot, maybe 2 actually, because just in case one fails. And great thing with coriander seeds is they're quite large, so it's one of those great things to do with your kids. And I think last year I did do this with my kids, and I'll try and put a video to that as well, which we went into a bit more detail with sowing the seeds and doing it properly, firming down the compost, and those sort of basic tips and tricks to make sure they succeed. Right, next is dill, and with this one the seeds are quite small, and I'll just get them out a second out of this packet. Almost like mini sunflower seeds. So I'll just sort of hold those at the camera. Hopefully it zooms in properly. Um, so yeah, all I'm basically going to do is put about 3 seeds per hole this time, because they're quite small. You can sort of get a few more in without it kind of compromising the growth. Basically, if you had big seeds, you could put like 4 in one hole, but then if they all germinate, they compete with each other, and it stops the plant getting off to the best start. So there is a bit of a balance between, like, ensuring sort of redundancy in the germination, and making sure they aren't too crowded, basically. Right, next one we're going to do is parsley, and I'll just point something out. These little tiny seed packets, my wife bought me a seed advent calendar for Christmas from Sainsbury's, and yeah, I got all these little seeds. And the nice thing with this is I wouldn't necessarily go to a garden centre, or I wouldn't necessarily go online and buy sort of parsley seeds, or anything like that. So just having them sort of here is yeah, really nice, and it saves me sort of having to remember to buy these things when I'm sort of out and about. So yeah, a nice little present for if you're for possibly next year. Final herb is thyme. I'm not too sure why this one is such a difficult herb to grow, but I've basically heard that it's a little bit fussy, a little bit needy, and yeah, people seem to struggle with it. So we're gonna do a couple seeds in the pot, and oh my days, they are very small. So, little tip here, guys: when you have a seed that is this small, these are like almost grains of sand, don't even do a hole. I'm going to fill my hole back in here, and I'm just going to just sprinkle some seeds on top. Then what I'm going to do, so when they are like this, they're little grains of sand, pop these back in. So I've just lightly sort of dusted the top with the seeds, and then what I'm going to do is very lightly just sprinkle over with some compost. And you're kind of chancing it here, what's still there, what's going to germinate, but those should be fine. The only thing I might need to do with these ones is potentially put them inside a polythene bag to keep the humidity up. The reason for that is if the top surface dries out, which is the first thing to dry out in a pot like this, the seeds might not germinate very well. So a polythene bag will keep moisture in and keep it damp up until the point where the sort of seeds germinate. And once they do germinate, take them out of the polythene bag. They don't need that added humidity, then it will cause problems with fungus and things like that. But up until you see the leaves, putting these inside a polythene bag should help. So I hope you liked that video, and it gives you a few ideas of what you can be sowing now in March. Don't forget, anything in February can also be sown now, and that's going to be the case for the next couple months as things warm up, the risk of frost passes. So yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you all soon for more videos.